Welcome to a special live edition of Off the Hook Sports. I am Caleb Calhoun. We're doing this special live edition because Rick Barnes just tanked. That's right, Tennessee basketball just tanked an SEC tournament game. Guys, it's very obvious they tanked. They played Mississippi State as a number 1 seed in the tournament after winning the SEC regular season title, and we're doing it in a fight for the number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament with the North Carolina Tar Heels and the Arizona Wildcats. Those were the teams that were mentioned as the last number 1 seed, as UConn, Houston, and I believe Purdue have the other number 1 seeds locked up. Tennessee came into this game with a chance to make a statement for that, and they lost. And they didn't just lose, they got blown out. And guys, it was a tank job. It was a huge tank job. You can read my column on it right now on offthehooksports.com. Tennessee threw this game. They did not try to win. They did not care to win. Effort was minimal, and none of you guys should be upset about that. That was the point from the start. So a couple of years ago, this is where this all started. A couple of years ago, for those of you who don't remember, Tennessee entered SEC tournament weekend as the projected number 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. They were the number 3 seed in the SEC tournament and a projected number 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. What did they do? They went on a run and they won the SEC tournament championship. They ended still they still got a number 3 seed in the tournament. Texas A&M was considered a bubble team entering the SEC tournament. They made it to Sunday, beat 2 top 25 teams, including a top 5 team, to get to Sunday before losing to Tennessee. And they still didn't get into the SEC, into the NCAA tournament. Rick Barnes, in that moment, during that time, actually said, quote, if conference tournaments don't mean anything, if the teams are already slotted to be in the tournament, can't improve their seeding, we should stay at home and let the teams that are trying to get in the tournament fight for that automatic bid. Give our league a chance to get more teams in the NCAA tournament. He literally said that. How do you see that quote? How do you see how Tennessee played today and not think Tennessee tanked this game? They obviously tanked it because Barnes, based on that quote, is very aware of the fact that Tennessee is locked in as a seed no matter what, because this is what the selection committee's done. This is a very obvious statement. Barnes just showed up the entire selection committee. He showed up the entire NCAA tournament selection committee. He said, if you're not going to reward us for how we play in the conference tournaments, if we're already in the NCAA tournament, which they are, we're not going to try to play in the conference tournament. I said earlier in the week, Tennessee basketball should chuck the SEC tournament. Even if it didn't reward seeding, I said they should consider it because, quite honestly, Tennessee needs to be, they don't run a lot of players. They go really 7.5 deep. So it was really important for them to be well rested for the NCAA tournament, given how many minutes Zakai Ziegler plays and things like that. So I had already said that Tennessee should rest the players and not take this tournament that seriously. It's more important to be healthy and ready to go for the NCAA tournament, much more than seeding. I think the draw is overrated, 2 versus 3 versus 1 seed. But they didn't just focus on rest. They straight up threw the game. They threw the game. They didn't care. And it's time to bring up some stats for you guys. Y'all ready for this? Jonas Adu on the game was 2 of 6. 2 of 6. He took 6 shots. Toby Walker took 1. They took a grand total of 7 shots, the 2 bigs. They took 33 threes. They took 62 shots overall. This is not exactly how Tennessee has played all year. They usually average roughly 27 threes, and they take significantly more 2s than 3s. They took 33 threes. I believe they only took 18 shots in the paint. Okay, that's with Mississippi State playing a 1-3-1 zone at times, which opens up the paint widely for you to be able to make an impact. Tennessee didn't care. Basically, if they had to fight for a bucket, they were going to dish it out and they were going to jack a 3. Now, the tank wasn't obvious because there were a lot of good looks from 3. Santiago Vescovi missed quite a few of them, to be fair. However, they were clearly not going to work that hard for buckets underneath the basket. Zakai Ziegler, ever the slasher, ever trying to get points underneath the basket, took 12 threes, 17 of his 17 shots were threes. He barely drove to the basket the way he usually does. This was very obviously Rick Barnes telling his players, Don't necessarily try to lose, but don't make any extra effort if you're trying to win the game. I don't know how you could watch the game and come away with any other conclusion. Wasn't like Tennessee was totally off shooting. They were 10 of 12 from the free throw line, guys. So they weren't trying to lose. They were just not willing to exert a certain amount of effort to win. That's how they lost 73-56. If they had won the game shooting well from three, fine, great. They win the game shooting well from three, and it doesn't matter. That's not what happened in this game, though. They weren't shooting great from three, but they weren't going to give up on it because they weren't going to give too much effort to try to score underneath the basket. It wasn't worth the work, and you guys shouldn't worry about that. I've told you guys from the start, this is not a flaw of Tennessee, okay? This is a flaw of the stupidity of the way the college basketball postseason is set up. They don't value conference tournaments unless you win the thing. And if that's the case and you're already in, too many teams get in as it is, you're going to see more of this. Jimmy Hyams was on a show earlier this week, and I believe it was at the lower level. I believe it was UT Martin and somebody. Once they realized they were in the tournament because there was a team in their conference that they were playing for the conference title that wasn't going to go to the tournament, they rested all 4 starters. They rested 4 of their 5 starters, in the conference tournament championship game because they knew they were getting in anyway. This is common. This is happening. This is exactly the problem with the college basketball postseason. Okay, now I want to answer some questions that people are wondering about this. So Chad Morris says, I like your outlook, Caleb, but why play your starters the entire game? Because it can't be an obvious tank. This wasn't, I did say it was an obvious tank because it is obvious if you look at how they did it, but Barnes can't make it very clear that he was throwing this tournament game. I'll tell you a moment that makes it very clear he was doing it, though. Tennessee, in the second half, after they got on a little mini run, before they got on a run, it was the one time they pulled Dalton Knecht to the bench and they pressed. Then they go on a mini run, but they don't press when Dalton Knecht's back in the game. Why? They don't want Dalton Knecht exerting any level of effort on defense. That's simple. Guys, it's that simple. There was no other way around this. Tennessee blatantly tanked. And you know what? I am applauding Rick Barnes for that. I am applauding him for showing up the SEC tournament, showing up the SEC and showing up the NCAA tournament committee. Okay. This has been, and by the way, and actually, I wanted to bring this up. Stephen Peaks has a great point. I want to get to the message board because some of you guys are making decent points. Stephen Peaks, he set Dalton for 4 minutes in the first half, from like 12 minutes to right before the under 8 timeout. No foul trouble, and Tennessee was down. That never happened in the regular season, ever. Exactly. And another big point on this, I'm not saying Rick Barnes said go out and try to lose this game. It's not like he was saying go lose this game and we don't want to play on Saturday. No, what he said was don't exert a level of energy that you usually exert trying to win this game, particularly on defense and particularly in the paint. That's why you saw a lot of shot clock. First of all, you saw a lot of those threes were jacked up with 10 seconds left on the shot clock when no shot was attempted in the paint. That typically doesn't happen with Tennessee, which still, even with Dalton, plays an inside-out game. Dalton's their go-to scorer. He's the one guy that relies a lot on the mid-range. They took hardly any mid-range shots in this game. Dalton did not even attempt that many buckets inside the paint. As a matter of fact, he was 2 of 9 from 3, but he was only 4 of 17 from the field. So I know that's 9 threes, 8 2-pointers. He did get to the foul line 4 times. But largely, if you really watched how he played, he wasn't trying to exert too much effort underneath the basket. So the point of this game was don't waste your time and don't waste your effort and don't waste your energy trying to win a game that will have no impact on your seeding whatsoever. But don't obviously throw it just out of fear of maybe some potential ramifications that might come if you do that. That's exactly what Rick Barnes did in this game. It was very clear if you listened to him 2 years ago, what he said, that he was going to consider doing this in the future. And I got to give him a ton of credit for it because this is usually the same Rick Barnes that works his players way too hard into March, which is why they're drained for the NCAA tournament. And while he did still play him more than I feel like he should have, he didn't work him too hard in this game. And he basically told him, take the game off. Guys, also, think about this for a minute. This is the worst Tennessee has looked since the last time they played Mississippi State. Now, you could say maybe it's something Mississippi State does. But the last time they played Mississippi State, they lost 77-72. Dalton Connect was hurt, just coming back from an injury, and that was a road game. This time, Dalton Connect's fully healthy. They've had some rest and some time off. They're playing the game at Bridgestone Arena in Nashville. It's effectively a home game for Tennessee. And they got blown out. It's nothing to worry about. Tennessee did not try to win this game. They flat out tanked it, and I love it. And this isn't just showing up the NCAA tournament and the NCAA selection committee, by the way, which is a big part of this. This is also showing up the SEC and Greg Sankey. Dave and I, we're going to have the video out later today. You can go see the live show from this morning to see more of it. But Dave and I actually had a pretty interesting conversation. He disagrees with me, but I'm thoroughly convinced that Greg Sankey, honestly, is ruining college sports to line his pockets by maximizing the postseason opportunities for the big name teams. This is the result when stuff like that happens. When you already know you're in the tournament, when you already know you're there, the result is why give effort in things like a money grab like the conference tournament? Show it up, embarrass it. And by the way, I hope they do this in football. I hope they do this for the SEC championship game in football. I hope a team loses that game on purpose because I think what they've done with the playoff has screwed that up. That's a totally different story. Okay. And you guys can all come at me. Oh my God, competitive fire. You have to try to win. Oh, you have to try so hard in every game and it's really important. And that's what's important. It's all about the competitive spirit. No, it's about going far and doing in the NCAA tournament and doing the best. It's about load management. And Rick Barnes, in a backwards way, exercised load management, not by resting his starters because that would have made it too obvious, but by telling them, don't make the effort that you typically need to make. The guy on the court who made the most effort was Jemai Mashak, who came off the court, off the bench, and got 10 points in the game. Rick Barnes played JP Estrella for a moment in the game, guys. He usually goes 8 deep, and Toby Awaka is the only other big. But nope, he played JP Estrella, and it ain't like Jonas Adu or Toby Awaka was in foul trouble, so he just chose to do that, okay? Most obvious tank in the history of tanks. Now, still could have worked out. The problem was Tennessee was so off from 3, including Dalton Connect in this game, but Santiago Vescovi and Josiah Jordan-James were combined 0 of 7 from 3. Vescovi's in a slump. Josiah Jordan-James is hit or miss. If both of them are on, Tennessee still could win this game, and Rick Barnes says, fine. Tennessee wins the game. We'll go to Saturday and play. But again, this was about not exerting any type of effort. In general, Tennessee threw this game. They threw it. They lost. I don't want to say on purpose. That is the question I'm posing. Did they lose on purpose? They didn't lose on purpose, in my opinion. But they didn't make any effort to win the game. So it was a blatant tank. Now Tennessee gets to go home. They get to relax for at least 6 days. See, this is exactly what they wanted. Between Sunday of this past week and at least Wednesday of next week, they will have only played one game. We're talking about a 12-day period in which they've only played one game. That's what they needed. If they can stay in rhythm, particularly with the way Rick Barnes practices his players, they should be fresh when the NCAA tournament starts. They're going to get an easy opponent to start the NCAA tournament. And so this is a big deal. And so you guys can suggest all day that Tennessee was trying hard to win this game. They weren't. Y'all are going to come at me. Y'all are going to accuse me of being some sort of homer for this. If you do, you don't know how I've covered Tennessee basketball or Tennessee football or the Tennessee Vols all year and in my whole career, okay? I was the one criticizing them for logging too many minutes while everybody was excited what they were doing in the regular season, okay? This was an obvious tank. And this is not the fault of the players or the coaches. It is the fault of the NCAA tournament selection committee and major conference commissioners like Greg Sankey, who have worked overtime to devalue everything about the regular season and anything leading up to the tournament to declare a national championship in every sport so they could line their own pockets. This is the result. I'm surprised Tennessee even got off the bus, quite honestly. I'm surprised he even got on the bus. I will say, and I want to bring up a point that Roger Cornett said, because this is a fair one, even though I'm complimenting Tennessee. He goes, same old Vols. Each player should apologize to the Vol Nation for the last 2 games. Each person that bought a ticket should get a refund, including travel expenses. They just lost me as a fan. Roger, the point I will give you, you are right about being the paying customer. But, and I would say that's where I could reset my thought and say maybe Tennessee should have let everybody know that they just weren't going to try in this game. They should have maybe made it clear that they just weren't going to give any effort, that they were just going to sit and relax. That would have been a much more effective way to do this than what they did, which was just flat out tank after people bought the tickets. But Roger, would you rather them do this, or would you rather them flame out in the NCAA tournament because they were so tired? Honestly, honest question. Because the truth of the matter is they need to be fresh and healthy for the NCAA tournament. And don't blame the Vols, okay? Don't blame them. Blame the selection committee and the SEC and major conference commissioners for absolutely screwing up the regular season of college basketball and making it completely irrelevant. This was the result. We all warned everybody that this would be the result if they decided to devalue the regular season. They chose to devalue the regular season. They did. They've been doing that forever because every idiot that follows sports is like, more teams in the tournament's better. How could you not like more basketball? How could you not want more teams? Let's go to 80. Let's go to 128. Well, at what point do you do that? And then people sit there and say, you know what? I'm not going to watch the regular season anymore. Because what's the point? What's the point of the conference tournament? And guys, again, I want to stress this. 2 years ago, Tennessee entered the conference tournament as a number 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. They were the number 3 seed in the SEC tournament and then won the tournament championship, beating Kentucky while Auburn flamed out and Auburn was ranked ahead of Tennessee. And somehow Tennessee still only got a number 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. The selection committee did not place any value on the conference tournament during that time. Texas A&M that same year was a 20-win team, beat Auburn and another top 25 team, I can't remember, but won 3 straight games to get to Sunday to play Tennessee in the SEC tournament championship. They were on the cusp on a bubble team beforehand. That should have gotten them in, and it didn't. The selection committee made it very clear 2 years ago, we are not going to look at these conference tournaments at all for the NCAA tournament. The only thing we'll do is if you were a team that we didn't have in the NCAA tournament and you win your conference, we'll put you in because we have to. But outside of that, these conference tournaments mean nothing to us. That's what the NCAA selection committee made very clear. Okay? If you're Tennessee and you just won the SEC regular season tournament title and you're going to the NCAA tournament anyway, and you're going to be a 1 or a 2 seed, and you know that the SEC tournament will have no bearing on your seeding, why give effort? Why even try? I have been calling for Tennessee to tank for a while now. I've said they should. I said this after the South Carolina game. I said if they beat South Carolina, which was a week and a half ago today, I said that clinches in the SEC regular season tournament title. They shouldn't do anything or give any more effort until the NCAA tournament. They listened to me. Kudos to Tennessee and kudos to Rick Barnes for thinking ahead. That's exactly how you play the game. Again, Mississippi State was in a 1-3-1 for a large portion of the game, which is why Jonas Aidoo had 10 rebounds. Typically, the 1-3-1 leaves open plenty of opportunities underneath the basket. Tennessee, I don't think, had 10 shots inside the circle this game. They didn't even try. They weren't going to risk it. That's because it was not worth the effort to do it. Now, on the other side, Mississippi State shot great from 3. They were 4 of 13, but they were very effective inside because nobody was going to give effort inside. I'm going to see a lot of criticism of the effort in this game. A ton of criticism on the effort in this game. If you're going to criticize the effort, ask yourself why the effort was so bad. The effort was so bad because this game literally had no impact on Tennessee for the NCAA tournament. Not seeding, not the region, not anything. Because the selection committee has made it very clear they don't value it. And Tennessee's already got the regular season tournament title. So there's no reason to win the conference tournament title. They've already got their banner hanging right now. Guys, please hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn your notifications on. We are building something great here at Off the Hook Sports and want you to be a part of it. We are going to be back on the show Monday. At that point, Tennessee will know where they're going in the NCAA tournament. We'll talk about this game and talk about Tennessee's NCAA tournament's matchups. Dave Hooker will be back on. Remember, we're on 10 a.m. Eastern every Monday through Friday. So, again, please tune in. We're building something great here. Go to the website. We've got a lot of talk, a lot of articles coming up about this right now. But don't freak out about this loss. This was the most obvious tank in the history of conference tournaments that I've ever witnessed. Tennessee, while they didn't blatantly try to did obviously throw this game. They tanked it. They lost it on purpose, and they wanted the rest for the NCAA tournament. Thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in with Caleb Calhoun. This has been a special live presentation of Off the Hook Sports.